Is your flash yours? Ready, yeah? Download right, yeah? Come. You want to connect it? Once again, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Very warm welcome to another edition of our evening talk. Today is very special because the subject is very special. All the viewers watching the program live from all our channels, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and also our webinar, very warm welcome to each one of you. And I'll take a minute to just tell you what's happening in MMA only in another few days. We already finalized program till November. I'll tell you what's happening in the month of September. That the 9th of September, we have a talk on the theme, the 12 Habits of Smart Skill Building. Professor Bala Shankar from Singapore University, and we have Ananda Session, Managing Director of Carpenter Universal, Ranganathan, Partner and Chartered Accountant EY, and also Senthil Ramani is a Senior Partner, AI and Innovation, Growth Markets from Accenture. Is happening at MMA on 9th September from 6 p.m. Please do mark your diary and come on. 15th, we have a seminar on the theme, Unlocking the Potential of Employees Using Technology. It's a very interesting seminar. We have, again, a galaxy of outstanding speakers. Arnath Babu is the CIO of KPMG New Delhi, is going to be delivering the keynote address. Suresh Raman, Head of TCS Chennai Operations and Vice President, delivering a special address during inaugural session. We have outstanding speakers like Sri Sudhakar Raja and Srishant Achar, Banu Kumar and Tamin. Mr. Anand is the CTO of Coro Health, and Bikram Naik, Head of L&T Infotech, and also Babu Krishna. And we have, again, very good, we have got a speaker from Zoho, and good line of speakers and very interesting themes. Please do come and log in, those who are watching online. Otherwise, it's in physical mode for all members of MMA and special invitees. On 16th September, we have again a talk on Read and Grow, the tiny changes, remarkable results, where Babu Krishnamurthy will be leading the conversation with Mr. Nazar, is the founder of Manna Foods. You all know, many of you may be eating their very, very diet food and other things. And Dayanand is a former managing director of Coleman, now is called Reckitt and Beniscam. Then on the 21st, we have statutory compliance related employees' welfare expenses according to EPF, ESI, because these are the things, compliance is very important. So that's why we are doing every month a compliance related event, so that our people don't miss this and you become very compliant, because you miss one thing, you will really become pennywise pound is foolish, and you will end up paying quite a lot of money other than the harassment which you undergo from the officials. This is happening on the gratuity, bonus, TDs, etc. As usual, Bhupati is a knowledge partner. Venue is Bhupati and Co. Chartered Accountant. Now on 24th September, again, we have a talk at the Indian Institute of Foundryman at Ananagar. So these are all our outreach program. Different locations will be starting event almost. Every day you'll find something which is near to your location. You can attend them. Now on 27th, we have MMA All India Management Student Convention. AI Shaping Today and the Future is happening at IIT Research Park. Again, we have an outstanding galaxy of speakers already sold out and is live. We are not only talking about AI's impact on various areas, we are also showing live demos of how the AI is going to be implemented in terms of healthcare, in terms of retail, in terms of movie making, in terms of your job, employment opportunity, many more. Then on 29th September, again, very important theme, Tamil Nadu, Water, Future and Disaster Management. We got two outstanding speakers again, the Thirupugar, a senior IAS officer. Then we have Janakarajan, he is President of South India, and he is again authority on water. This is what's happening in the month of September. Now the people, I given enough time for the people to have, latecomers to have a bite and then come and settle down inside. And coming to today's event, social impact, creating employment in small towns. The moment Mr. Madhavan is the one who facilitated this talk, former secretary of MMA and well-wisher, one of the oldest member. When he mentioned about this topic, sounded very, very interesting to me for a simple reason. Unless you have, because we do quite a bit of outreach program, and we do MMA chapter located at 10 different locations, Erode, Namakkal, Athur, and we have gone and done phenomenal work there. We could see that those people are so eager to learn something. They really go all out to come and spend time, ask a lot of questions. We could make out there's so much of energy. But at the end of the day, we could see the youth, the skill availability. They also used to tell us that they are finding it so difficult to get good opportunity for employment. There are good people to work there. And we strongly believe unless the Tier 2, Tier 3 cities do well, I don't think that as a state we'll do well. This is applicable to every state, not to Tamil Nadu. And unless the cities, what we call it Tier 2, Tier 3 city, There the opportunities are very limited in terms of the schooling, in terms of the number of industries available, all that is a problem. So keeping that in mind, our MMS endeavor to reach out to small towns, that's the reason we are doing this. I am quite sure large number of people who are watching, especially the management students, you will immensely benefit. By any chance, your colleagues, your friends, anybody missed watching them, as usual, all this recording is available in our YouTube channel. Ladies and gentlemen, we have two outstanding speakers, one to chair, other one to speak on the subject, and put your hand together to welcome the distinguished speaker for this evening and to chair the session. We have Mythily Ramesh, co-founder and CEO of NextWealth Entrepreneurs Private Limited, and to chair the session we have Shivakumar, managing partner and also MMA managing committee member. May I request you please take your place on the dais. The format of the program, as usual, is after Shivakumar introducing the speaker, I'll introduce Shivakumar, he will introduce the distinguished speakers for this evening, set the context, and thereafter, after the presentation by Mythily, and if you have any questions, please do share it at the numbers which is flashed on your screen. All the people who are watching it live, you can ask the questions. I request you to make the questions specific to the discussion what's happening, and I would really encourage you to ask questions, not statements and your point of view that we could share it with the speaker at the end of the thing. Let me have the privilege of introducing Mr. Shivakumar. Shivakumar is not new to this thing. He's been one of our oldest committee members. He's managing partner Prabha Associates and RV Industries thing, and also member of the MMA managing committee. And he's very passionate. He's always quality driven, and he's very perception of small and medium industries in the manufacturing space, especially around asset light manufacturing and many more of similar models. With a proven ability to convert human talent into positive outcome, his passion is to innovate, improve on techniques and initiatives to lead customer delight, and a strategic thinker always. And even when we meet, he all the time will think about strategy, how we can do something different than we are doing already. And many of the implementation, the chapters, what is functioning at different locations, thanks to Shivakumar's constant his endeavor to get engaged with the MMA and our team to make sure that we bring in some outstanding program and our outreach program at different cities. He is currently a director of Root Industries Limited, director of Skill Delivery, and also director of Plate Technologies and IIT Madras Incubator thing. I request Mr. Shivakumar to introduce the speaker and thing. Ladies and gentlemen, big round of applause to our chairman for this evening, Mr. Shivakumar.
Thank you, Group Captain. The speaker for the evening, Madam Mythily Ramesh, Mr. Madhavan, and the other IIM colleagues, Mr. Rajagopal, if I missed out some names, I don't know some of them here, but these two people are known to me, so I mentioned them. Ladies and gentlemen, a few days back, Group Captain called me up and said, "Are you free on the 6th? I want you to chair the session." And I was in Hosur, I was supposed to be in Hosur on the 6th. But the next sentence was, we're going to have Mythily Ramesh, who's making a terrific impact in small towns. I immediately said, look, I can curtail my Hosur visit and be back in Chennai. Small towns are something very, 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 very important for me, because only in small towns I could perform well, whether it was a manufacturing company or it was a retail industry that I started in Tanjore way back in '88. The way the small towns operate is very different from how the metros operate. The way people think in small towns are very different. And from town to town, you'll find a lot more difference. When we started the supermarket, just to set the context, when we started the supermarket, I was just about 25, 26 years. From Bharatidasan University, I went there because my grandfather ran a big shop there. And when I started the supermarket, my first thing was, can we computerize the whole thing? So I computerized the whole store. And within about 6-7 days, people said it won't work. I don't know much about software. I got a software done and I computerized. My first billing has to be with a computerized billing. Store did well, but after 4 or 5 days, I got at the end of the day report said error. That day I had a great sale. Whenever I had a great sale, it will show error. But whenever I had a normal sale, it will give you the correct report. So I didn't know what to do. There's a correlation between great sale day and the error. So I called those guys and said, I don't know what is happening. And they couldn't spot out what the error is. When I was doing my project, they asked me, what is the maximum sale I'll do? I said 1 lakh a day. So they put, some 9,99,000 as the maximum sale for the end of the day. There were days when it crossed, when it was a sale day like Diwali or a wholesale day or something like that, it touched 10 lakhs. Okay. And when it touched 10 lakhs, it will be error. Whenever it was less than 10 lakhs, there won't be an error. So these are all small things. Small towns don't have power. Small towns, power cut is quite normal. Education for women in 80s in Tanjavur, if you look at it, many of them didn't want their girls to come up to the city or to other towns to study. So that's a small town. So I said, I'm really, really keen on chairing this session. But upon reading what Madam Mythily has done, I can only tell you one thing, that technology has actually revolutionized the business world. And what women have done to this IT world is something very different. They have transferred the culture of the IT industry, They've transformed the culture of the IT industry. While IT industry revolutionized the world, we must thank women of India who really brought about a fair amount of culture in this IT industry. So with this, let me introduce, first of all, very rare to see women entrepreneurs. And Mythily's career, I think she had an excellent educational career, graduating from College of Engineering, Guindy, and then from IIM Ahmedabad, joining Wipro, and 20 years in Wipro in different positions in marketing, sales, being a senior vice president of Wipro. To think about entrepreneurship is a paradigm shift. You're in a cushy job, very comfortable position, brand is very powerful, can just get things done, and one fine day you say, look, I need to be on my own foot. And when we have to be on your own foot, to think about the impact that you will create to this world by getting into small towns. When policies for small towns were not formalized by many countries, including India, small towns need special policies. And these policies need detailed research. And even US is doing a lot of research on small towns. So if US is doing research on small towns and penetration into small towns, look at what we as Indians should do. And if Mythily had thought about getting into small towns and impacting, I must tell you that it is so gratifying, madam. And your dream of creating the 10,000 jobs, I just heard that you're almost going to touch the 5,000 jobs. You crossed over 4,500 jobs. It certainly is something that all of us can cherish and be happy about. And tell us in whatever way we could contribute, we'd like to be part of your journey. With this small intro, let me introduce her. Mythily, as I told you, has about 30 plus experience from Guindy Engineering and from IIM Ahmedabad. Her career spans product management, marketing, business head, and quality. She's a certified black belt. Those days, black belt means karate, but now it is on Six Sigma. She's done a lot of initiatives in Wipro. She's moved the organization from a 1.7 Sigma to 4.7 Sigma and reducing the order to collection cycle from 365 days to 120 days. She's got a passion for entrepreneurship. Even in Wipro, she had this. She was the CEO of a startup in Wipro called, how do I say that? 01 Markets, and built a successful business around e-procurement. E-procurement was not known much at that time. And she's pioneered the reverse auction in India. She then moved to the corporate office to handle mergers and acquisition. All these were just starting up in 2000. In her last stint in Wipro, as Senior VP for Wipro BPO, she was responsible for pre-sales and solutioning, product management, transition, platform BPO consulting and procurement, BPO operations. In this role, she was responsible for increasing the backup office business from 5% to 35% and bringing in USD 300 million of business for the division. In 2006-7, if you've not clapped till now, at least for this you could clap. 2006-7, she was adjudged as the 25 most powerful women in India by India Today and DataQuest. She has been profiled many times in Business Today and Business World as a successful women IT professional. In 2010, she and a few of the Wipro colleagues started a social entrepreneurship firm, NextWealth, about which she's going to talk today, focusing on delivering AI ML services from small towns. Their mission is to create 10,000 jobs in the small town. She is currently the co-founder and CEO of NextWealth. She also serves on the board of many companies. She is currently on the board of Karnataka Bank, Indian Institute of Management, Udaipur, WP Digital as an independent director. She is a steering committee member of an IIM NGO, alumni NGO, focusing on educating the underprivileged girl child in India. You must have heard about Pudumai Pen, which the CM is trying to do and announced today. She is also a member of NASSCOM, BPM Council, and is heading a task force on expansion into small towns to move the industry to operate more and more from small towns, and thereby not only ensuring talent expansion but also revenue growth. She was rightly honored with as the Distinguished Alumnus Award during the 225th years celebration of College of Engineering, Guindy. So many achievements, bold thought to become an entrepreneur, and she is here to share her journey with us. Thank you.
Power.
Okay, so good evening, everybody, and thanks to Mr. Shiv Kumar for a very long and embarrassing introduction. Very happy to be here. Thank you to Group Captain Vijay Kumar, Mr. Shiv Kumar, Mr. Madhavan, who has been instrumental in inviting me here. Always a pleasure to be in Chennai, my hometown, and I have a lot of things to do when I come here, a lot of things to do and see whenever I come to Chennai. Having been born and brought up in Chennai, and today afternoon I was just showing Sanjay, who is here, my colleague, where I was, spent the first 10 years of my life. I was just showing him the house. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the small towns context and the social impact of what we do, and a little bit about NextWealth as well. Because as Mr. Shivkumar very rightly said, people do have impressions about small towns. And there are certain thoughts which come to mind when you talk about small towns, in the sense that maybe they are not capable enough, maybe the sort of work that we can give is low-end work. And that's a myth I would sort of want to bust in this talk today. So the first part is I'm going to talk a little bit about small towns, introduction, and then I'll talk about what we are doing in NextWealth and what is the social impact of what we are doing. So the first part is, so the BPM industry, which is the business process management industry, and you can take it as, all of us are familiar with the IT industry, which is basically into the technology part of it. BPM is all the back office, call center type of work that is being done. That provides for about 1.4 million jobs today. But the problem is it is largely concentrated in the top 10 cities in the country. And when I say top 10 cities, I'm including Pune, Hyderabad and all that. And today the industry has very high attrition of almost 40 to 50% per annum, which means, they are recycling their entire set of employees every 2 years. And you can imagine the sort of cost that will be there to train and retrain them. So very high attrition, and that is a challenge they always face. Whereas and of course, another organization gives 1,000 rupees more, they jump. So the loyalty factor is also less, and there is always a war for talent as far as the top organizations are concerned. Whereas on the other hand, you have more than 250 small towns. And when I say small towns, it's tier 3, tier 4, tier 5 type of towns. Not necessarily the villages, but tier 3, tier 4, tier 5 in the typical, the typical terminology that the government uses. Over 250 small towns in the country. And what we realized, and this was around 2009 or so, is more than 60% of the colleges in the country, whether engineering college or the graduate college, are concentrated in these small towns. For these graduates, they don't have local job opportunities, because for them the aspiration is to work in an IT or a BPM organization. But in a town like, let's say, a Vellore or a Salem, there are very limited job opportunities for them from the IT and BPM sector. So many of them migrate to the city. Not all of them migrate, because typically these towns are from families are from a very conservative background. So even men are not allowed to migrate to the cities. It's like going to US for them. So women definitely are not allowed to move to the cities. So about 30% of them move to the cities looking for a job. And you will find most of the large IT organizations or BPM organizations like Wipro, Cognizant, Infosys, almost 30% of their employees are actually from the small towns. And during COVID, it was really tough, because all of them went back to their hometowns. And now many of them don't want to come back because they've gone back to their hometowns. But essentially, 30 migrate to the city, about 70% of the people who stay back. The people who stay back don't have, as I said, local job opportunities. So they will take up something which is not commensurate with their education. Maybe they will go to the, like Mr. Shivkumar was just saying, may go and do a sales job in one of the outlets, but not necessarily commensurate with their education. And they are all first generation graduates, which means they must have taken loans for their education, and they need to pay that back. So therefore they need that money to be able to pay back. Those who migrate to the city also, even if they earn 25,000, 30,000 rupees, they don't save anything, because just stay, boarding, all of that itself is a big expense for them. So this is the overall scenario. So on one hand, you have the demand in the city. The other hand, you have the supply in the small towns. So in 2009 or 2010, after I quit Wipro, I was looking to see what is it that I can do which has a social impact. And while Mr. Shivkumar has been saying that, as an entrepreneur, she has done this, it is actually not me. It is about 4 of us plus the entire team of NextWealth who has been instrumental in doing this. In 2009 or 2010, we said, how can we create some sort of a model which will match this demand in the city and the supply in the small towns, and therefore see what we can do in terms of providing a social impact. So we said, can we have the work moving to where the people are instead of people moving to where the work is? And the premise being, if work can be given 3,000 miles away from US to India, why not 300 miles away from the cities to the towns? So that's how this whole thing started. But to do that, we had to have some sort of an understanding of what these small towns people are capable of. So we did go to Salem at that time and did a little bit of talking to people and understanding the demographics of the people there. What we realized was the people are generally very conservative, very soft-spoken, very diffident. For them to be able to survive in the city, in the large organizations, was tough. But English oral communication was poor, but their written communication was very good. In fact, their written communication, I won't say it was very good, it was good. Employability was much lower in terms of what the expectations of the IT BPM organizations expected. But what we found was that they are highly trainable because of the fact that their aspiration and commitment to whatever they took up was very high. So we did an estimate of the talent pool that is available, and we found that almost 0.5 million graduates were there who were employable by this sector. And as I said, 1.4 million is the current employment of this sector. And they are capable of doing all BPM type of work as well as IT type of work. The only thing that was tough for them was international voice or some complex work that would be, or IT development, software development work is the only thing that we found was tough for them. Infrastructure wise, Mr. Shivkumar talked about the power situation there. What we found was the physical infrastructure was not bad. There was always power backup, UPS, generator, all of that was there. In fact, I can say in the last 10, 12 years, we have been in Salem. Actually, we are not in Salem. It's a place called Mallasamudram, about 20 minutes from Salem. We would have probably had a downtime of approximately 15 minutes in the last 12 years. So we have not had a downtime. So infrastructure is fairly good in all these locations. What were the benefits? We found cost of living is much lower. And when I say cost of living is much lower, just to give you a perspective, if let's say any of the large BPM organizations to do say something like an invoice processing work would charge about something like $15 an hour when they quote to companies worldwide. Their costs will be in the range of about $10 an hour. We do that work between $3 to $5 an hour, making money. We are not making loss. We are making money at $3 to $5 an hour. So here we can do work at $3 to $5 an hour. The cost of an IT, like let's say a Wipro Cognizant is $10, what they charge is $15. So essentially we are able to do work at 1/3 the cost of what you can see in the, let's say in the US, and probably 30% to 40% lower than what you would see in the cities. So that is, cost of living is lower. Large pool of trainable talent is available. Attrition, which is a big problem for this industry, which is running to 40-50%, which I talked about earlier, is only 10 to 15% per annum in these locations. And why this is important is, if attrition is high, then you have to recruit people, train them all over again, operational stability goes, whereas here with 10 to 15% per annum attrition, operational stability is there. Inclusive workforce, and I'll talk about that social impact part of it a little later. But reversing the migration and crowding in the cities is a big aspect of it. And we said if this is, and also given the fact that the COVID situation and work from home is a reality, we said can we look at different disruptive delivery models and basically reimagine the future of work different from what it is today. Of course, the challenges are always there. Any new model you try, there are going to be challenges. There will be local conditions, cultural nuances are different, local language is different. Large organizations find it very difficult to go and replicate in small towns. And I'll talk about why. Because they used to running about 5,000, 7,000 people centers. For them to run a center of 500 people, they find it a big challenge. Managerial talent is also an issue. So these are all the challenges. But essentially, in summary, small towns, the cost is 30 to 50% lower attrition, huge talent pool available, good infrastructure, connectivity is there, ability to socially impact. So why not go to the small towns? What prevents people from going to the small towns? So in NextWealth, we said, why don't we create a model by which we can leverage the talent that is there and provide jobs to them. So what we did was we pioneered what is called as a distributed delivery model, and to bridge this demand supply gap. And what we do is, instead of setting up one large center like and Wipro or the others would do, they have let's say 5,000, 7,000 people in this center in the city, which is what I'm calling as a large tree. We said, can we set up many small centers in a distributed delivery? The same work with a large center, can we set up many small centers in the small towns? And the second thing that we did was, so each of these centers can be about 1,000 people or 1,500 people or even 2,000 people. But they will definitely not be the 10,000 people centers that these organizations have. Second thing we did was, we said, if it is not about jobs, it is about seeing how we can impact the local ecosystem. And that can be done only if we don't go and put up centers there. If we go and put up centers there, the managers that we send from, let's say, a Bangalore or a Chennai to those locations are going to come running back because the glamour of the city is always there. So we said we need to build managers from the grassroots in these locations, and therefore we went with an entrepreneur-driven model. So we appoint entrepreneurs in these locations who will run the delivery centers. And what the entrepreneurs will do is to not only run the delivery centers, they were carefully chosen because we wanted entrepreneurs who are emotionally connected with the place, they understand the local language, they can get the last mile connectivity done, they want to impact because they are from those locations. So just as an example, our center in Mallasamudram, which is about 20 minutes from Salem, the entrepreneur there is, he's done his engineering, he's done his MBA in US, he's a Six Sigma black belt, worked for 15 years in the industry, and I'll be shortly showing a video where you will see him talking. And he wanted to come back to Salem and give back to that town. So he went back and set up this center. Similarly, our Chittoor center is another entrepreneur who he's done his engineering, MTech, PhD, has 4 or 5 patents to his name, and his mother used to run a hospital there in Chittoor. And so he wanted to go back and set up the center in Chittoor because he's emotionally connected with the place. He wants to give back to the city. And therefore, he said he will set up a center there. And what we found is if we do in an entrepreneur model, you are building managers from the grassroots, from the local people available there, you are building managers rather than sending managers from the city to these locations. And therefore, what happened in Chennai or Pune or Hyderabad or Bangalore 25 years back is what we want to create in these small towns. So that 20 years later, when we look at these locations, they are like the Bangalores and the Punes and the Chennai, and therefore, lot more work can be brought in from the US or UK, all over the world, into these locations. So this is the model that we set up in, and this is a first time model that has been set up. So what are the benefits for people in the chain? For the graduates, they get a job locally. And even if they earn 20,000 rupees, they save 90% of what they earn. So definitely they are getting a job and they are able to save. That's at the graduate level. I can use this pointer. What? Is this a pointer or maybe you can see the arrow. Here. So, okay, it's a little, I'll talk just like that. So for the graduates, there is clearly a value proposition. For the entrepreneur, because he's emotionally connected with the place, he's able to give back to the town, is a business proposition, and he makes about 10 to 15% margin. So clearly value for the entrepreneur. For the small town, because a center like this has started, and this is how Bangalore and the other places started, right? Something like this has started, it is impacting everybody else. So for example, if the center we have in Salem has got 2,000 people, but for those 2,000 people, you have that many buses, you have that much of the canteen, etc., that is running there. And so there is a whole ecosystem which is working around it. So for the small town, makes a big difference. For the customer, clearly there is affordability because you're getting 30% to 50% savings in terms of the work that is being given here. And for NextWealth, it is purpose with profit. Social impact, but with profitability. So that is the every factor or every person in the chain is actually benefiting in this model. So what is NextWealth model itself? So when we started to look at it, we said we will set up NextWealth as a social entrepreneurship firm. But how do we define social entrepreneurship? NGOs are typically for do good. They have a purpose. They want to do good, they have a commitment to a cause, they have a social objective, but they are highly dependent on grants. And sometimes, while I've given, I'm saying strongly accountability absent, but it is difficult sometimes to establish accountability, and scalability is difficult. For corporates, it's all about do well, it's about profit. Commitment to the business, profit objectives, self-sustaining, they are accountable to the stakeholders and the shareholders. NextWealth is about do good as well as do well. The purpose part of NGOs with the profit part of corporates is what we combine. Having a clear-cut social objective as well as a profit objective. And when we have to choose between these two, we choose the social objective. Self-sustaining, high accountability, we are not dependent on grants, we are profitable, and whatever profits we make goes back into the sustenance of the business. So this is a model of purpose with profit. So it is a social venture in a distributed delivery model. The services that we had to establish, what is the sort of services we can do from here when we started? Now, typically when we thought we'll have two challenges. One is how do we find a good entrepreneur who can run this? And second, can we get customers to give us work here like they are giving to the Wipros and the Cognizants? These were the two challenges that we were facing. Entrepreneurs, we found absolutely no challenge. We have enough entrepreneurs in the country. We had about 150 entrepreneurs writing to us saying, I want to set up in Patna, in Lucknow, in Nasik. And we had to say no to a lot of them, though we ran an entrepreneurship workshop. So entrepreneur side, not a problem at all. Getting customers was the challenge because the first thing they said is, oh, if you're running it from Salem, then I can give you data entry type of work. Oh, you're doing it for social impact, so I'll put it under my CSR budget, right? And if you're doing it from the small town, then they also thought it will be very, very cheap. It is not, that is not the case. The work that we actually do here is very high-end work. And I've seen the same work being done in Wipro when I was in Wipro. The quality of work in Wipro, and if you look at the quality of work being done here, it is equal, if not better, the work that is being done here, purely because of the aspiration and the commitment of the people here. So the work that we do here is AIML data services, we do digital CX services, we do IT services. And some of this AIML data services is in areas which are very complex, and I'll talk about that. The second question that comes to mind is, which customers told us is, but will it meet international quality standards? Because we are looking at, we need that level of quality. So, and we ourselves had that doubt initially. In fact, first in the initial stages when I went there, our first customer, we were actually not meeting our targets, which was supposed to be an accuracy level of 98%. We were at some 85, 86%. So I went to see what those people were actually doing when they were doing the work. And I sat with them and I asked one of the girls, they were saying that, what is the level of quality or accuracy you have? She said 85%, and she was very proud of it. Then because they were equating it to their second PU marks or their graduate marks and saying 85% is great. Then I had to tell her why 98% itself may not be good enough. So that's where things started, and we had to really train them on the quality aspects, why 98 or 99% is important. But one thing we have ensured always is quality first and business next. That was something that we have refused businesses where we think we cannot meet some of those quality norms, we have refused. So because of that, we do our customer satisfaction survey every year, and we ask for the net promoter score. I think you may be familiar with the net promoter score, where the customer gives one single question he's asked in terms of, will you refer NextWealth to anybody else? It's a universal score, which is known worldwide, and our score is 70. That is one of the highest in the industry. The next highest is 36 or 37, and I don't want to name the organization, but if you go and Google, you will find that. So NPS score is 70. It is because customers are highly satisfied with the sort of work and the quality level that is getting delivered. Overall, of course, advantages of small towns. So the sort of work which is being done here and which we do is computer vision sort of work, which is image annotation, semantic segmentation. It is like, just to give an example, driverless cars. So suddenly driverless cars are becoming a big thing in the US and worldwide. How do they actually have these driverless cars going without hitting anything? They have an artificial intelligence or machine learning algorithm inside the car which guides the car. But that AIML algorithm has to be trained, saying that, okay, this is a billboard, this is a moving object, this is a road divider, etc., etc. It has to be trained. That training is done by us. So we train the car to the ML algorithm to know that this is a dynamic object, this is a static object, this is a moving object, etc., etc. So we do that annotation to train. Or to give another example, for one of our customers, they had these low-lying aircrafts or drones which was taking pictures of the railroad tracks in Texas. And it will then say, okay, this nut is loose or this bolt is coming loose, so there could be a possibility of an accident. So we typically have inspection guards on our railroad tracks. They have these aircraft which constantly is taking videos, and the algorithm will just say that this area is a problem or this location is a problem. And those run to thousands of miles. You can't just physically have anybody walking the tracks and seeing it. So those pictures actually come to us. And then we say whether that algorithm has correctly pointed it out or wrongly pointed it out. If it is wrong, we tell the algorithm what is wrong and what is correct, and we train it. That is the sort of work which is being done here, which is in computer vision. Similarly, in NLP, natural language processing, there is Chatbots, which all of you must be familiar with. When you go to any of these Google sites, you'll have a pop-up chat, this thing messenger, and it's automatic messages which are coming from there. So conversational AI, these are all things of work which is high-end work which is getting done from these locations. Apart from that, we also have in IT services, now the in thing is called low code, no code. Very difficult to find data scientists who can actually do this sort of work, but this is something that we are doing from these locations. Apart from that, we do low-end application development work as well. So from NextWealth point of view, we are in 6 centers: Salem, Vellore, Mysore, Hubli, Chittoor, and Bhilai. We have more than 4,500 employees. We have done about 557 million plus transactions so far. And we have over 100 customers. All the certifications that is required, ISO, HIPAA compliance, PCI DSS compliance, etc. We are also, one of the things that NextWealth is looking at, apart from providing jobs to people, we also want to ensure that we are giving jobs to more women than men. And so our ratio is 56% women and 44% men. And the reason we are doing this is, and men are saving 40% of what they earn, what they give back to their parents. And women, we also found that men are able to impact the family a lot, but women impact the family, society, and the community. They have an impact across. And irrespective of whether men or women, we have found that they are able to fund their siblings' education, their own education, their siblings' marriage, which is a big thing in all these locations, so you need money for that. They've been able to buy vehicles, they've been able to get loans for buying appliances. So the standard of living itself is going up. So this is about NextWealth. Just examples of the work that they are doing. This is identity verification. So if any of you go to the US and you go to an Airbnb or any other place and they want to do ID verification, you give your passport, they take a picture of that, and then your picture they take on a camera, then they have to compare both and see whether it is the same person or not. So on that platform that they run it with, it comes to us, to our center in Salem, in Mallasamudram, and within 85 seconds, we have to come back and say whether it is the same person or not, it is a correct person or not. And we have to do this with a level of 99% accuracy, which is not easy. Especially with Japanese and Chinese people, it is very difficult to identify and differentiate between the, the driver's license and the person's picture. Yeah. So that we are doing. We have 1,100 people doing that work, and 24/7 by 365. So 365 days of the year, 24/7. We have 3 shifts working continuously doing this work. 1,100 people. We are at that 99% accuracy level. This is for, how am I doing on time? 6, okay, yeah. So this is again a very worldwide retail, multinational retail corporation, very well known, one of the topmost retail corporations. We work with them. And this is again an example of judgment type of work. So it's not like, you just look at something and copy paste. This is actually judgment work. They have millions of catalog items like we see on Flipkart or on Amazon, right? So it runs to about 100 plus million. Their product managers have to take a decision on a daily basis what pricing to put. So they will compare their product pricing with that of competition and see whether they are in that same range or whether they are off. And then they have to take pricing decisions based on that. Obviously, they can't take when it's running to millions of products. So they have an AIML algorithm which runs there, compares and says, okay, this is a product and this is the pricing for this product, this is the pricing, and then he takes the decision. And sometimes the decision is also taken automatically by the algorithm. Wrong decision means leakage of revenue, loss of money and loss of profits. So there what we do is we train that algorithm to say whether it's doing the correct match, whether it is taking that automatic correct decision or not. And to train that algorithm, it's a lot of judgment work. So if I look at, let's say this pointer from this company, the pointer from another company, there may be maybe 15 specifications describing it. 10 may match, 5 may not match. So is it the same product or not? So that's a judgment call we have to take. Plus websites are also continuously changing. So there are new products are getting released. So here we have to do it, and we are doing this at a 99% accuracy level. This is a simple one, invoice processing, again for a worldwide multinational IT organization. And the complexity is, we do this, they have about, this is running across 75 suppliers of 75 countries, 10 different languages, including Spanish, French, and so on. They have more than, 700 types of tax codes that people have to remember and do it. Again, this is being done at 99.95% accuracy. There is no opportunity to do QC, quality control, on this. It goes straight through to the customer's system. So I have to be very, very careful in doing this. This is again an equity research company where all the data, if I want to know about an organization, whether I can give loans to this organization or not, and typically banks use this platform. They would like to know all the data about that organization in terms of the financials, whether there are any litigations, any legal cases, who are the directors. All the data from 35 different sites is put together by us into this platform. These are all just examples of the type of work, and these examples I'm giving, saying that this is the type of work that people in small towns are capable of doing, if given an opportunity. And that is largely due to their aspiration and their commitment to whatever they are doing. Highly trainable. They take a little more time to learn, but once they have learned, absolutely bang on in terms of the quality and the focus with which they do this work. So the social impact of all of this, and I've talked a little bit about this, we measure on quality of life, self-esteem, family, as well as community. And what we have seen is that almost quality of life I talked about. Their quality of life, because they've been able to buy vehicles, or they've been able to buy jewelry. Jewelry is a big thing for them. They've been able to do that. Self-esteem or pride, just wearing the badge and coming to office means a lot to them. So pride is self-esteem is a big thing. Family, it's a happier family because they now are able to support themselves even during the health times, etc. Most important is the women part of it. And the women part slice, when we did, what we realized is earlier they would finish their graduation, by age of 21 they would get married. Parents would get them married off. But because they're coming here and working, 23, 24 or 25 is when now they are getting married, at least people who are working here. And so they are a little bit more knowledgeable rather than, fresh from college. They are able to now choose their partner. Earlier they had no say in their partner. Now they're able to choose their partner. And in a few cases in our organization, they've been able to say no to dowry, which is again a very fundamental change that is coming up. It's a few cases, but that is an impact because that somebody else talks to somebody else, talks to somebody else is how it spreads. But it is making us, it's a small drop in the ocean, but they've been able to say no to dowry there. And saying that I want to work after graduation, I don't want to get married immediately. So positive impact, we measure the social impact, as I said. Before NextWealth, it was women who were thriving was 28%. For them, it's now 50%. It is now moving to 79% is where they see themselves in 5 years from now. It's an international scoring. So example, Dilli Rani comes from a family of 4 where she is the sole breadwinner. Her father is no more. Her mother is a homemaker. She says her life objective is to keep her mother happy and ensure the completion of her brother's education, that is brother. If NextWealth had not been there in Chittoor, she would have had to work as an accountant with local traders. Aisha is a BSc Computer Science graduate. She comes from a family of 6. Her father is a daily wage worker. Daily wage worker, you know, they take those sacks and put it onto the trucks and all that. And her mom is a homemaker. Her option was to take up menial jobs with the local traders in spite of having done her graduation. Now she wants to meet her key objective of funding her sister's higher education. So here is this sort of background, but people capable of doing world-class work and world-class quality work at that. What I just. These two videos are three minutes. Yeah. Okay. So you can play the which one? The first one. Okay.
South of Bengaluru, far from the hustle and bustle of the city, is an IT center of 250 people. Here at Mallasamudram, young people are changing the face of the IT industry. This is the story of these global players from the heart of rural India. And this is the story of NextWealth, a story of inclusive growth, of opportunities, of lives transformed.
I am Faustino Avinash Rosario. I am an entrepreneur here. I run the Mahindra NextWealth Center out of Mallasamudram. Nearly 68% of our population, people working here, are engineering graduates. About 20% are postgraduates, the rest are graduates. They come from a typical family background of weavers, daily wage laborers, farmers. Some are self-employed and very few working on the private and the government sector.
என் பேர் சங்கர். நான் MBA சிஸ்டம்ஸ் முடிச்சிருக்கேன். my parents are weavers. எனக்கு ஒரு பிரதர் இருக்கான், அவன் BCA படிச்சிருக்கான். When I did my graduation, I thought I should go to Bangalore or Chennai, but I got the job in Salem.
ನನ್ನ ಹೆಸರು ವೀರಭದ್ರಾಯಿ ಅಂತೇಳಿ. ನಾನು ಶಿವಮೊಗ್ಗದಿಂದ ಬಂದಿದ್ದೇನೆ. ನಾನು ಸೆಕೆಂಡ್ ಇಯರ್ PUC ಆಗಿದೆ. ನಾನು 4 ವರ್ಷದಿಂದ ಈ ಆಫೀಸಲ್ಲಿ ವರ್ಕ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ. ಈ ಆಫೀಸಲ್ಲಿ ವರ್ಕ್ ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕೆ ನಂಗೆ ತುಂಬ ಇಷ್ಟ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ.
My name is Yasmin Banu from Salem. I have completed my MCA in Mahindra Engineering College. Now I am working in a Mahindra NextWealth and I feel very proud to be a part of this company. My aspiration is to get a good position in this company.
எனக்கு மேலே படிக்க வாய்ப்பு இல்லாமல் போனனால என் பொண்ணுங்களையாவது படிக்க வச்சு அவங்களாம் வேலைக்கு போகணும், சொந்த காலில் நிற்கணும்.
So this, okay. So this Yasmin Banu that we saw towards the end, she's, I think there were 4 children, and mother originally did not, mother and father did not want to send her to work. They said they wanted to get her married off. And then she went on a fast for about 3 days and said, I want to go to work and I don't want to get married now. And then ultimately she joined us, worked for about 3-4 years, after which she went and got married. Also the first person you saw is Shankar. So in our centers we typically have, we right now have 56% women. We are aiming to have 65% women. We also want to have 2% people with disabilities. So we are partnered with the Association of People with Disabilities in Bangalore, and we are training them now. And because today in a work from home, possibilities are there for people to work from home. So if they are not able to come to work, they can be at home and work. So they may be physically disabled, but many times people treat them as though they are mentally disabled. They are not. So they can definitely do this sort of work. And that is something that we have an aim for this year. That training has already started. This one is about Pungudi again from Salem. Again? May not be.
NextWealth is one of the fastest growing AI/ML data services companies, headquartered in Bangalore, India. Started off as a back office operations organization a decade ago, NextWealth pivoted into AI ML data enrichment space and has capabilities under computer vision, natural language processing, and structured and semi-structured data. NextWealth provides data collection, preparation, and enrichment services to ensure data is presented in a consumable form to AI ML models. NextWealth helps data scientists with high-quality training data sets and model validation with accuracy greater than 99.9%. These data enablement services are delivered in a managed services model with world-class quality in a flexible and variable manner and at affordable price points. NextWealth customers, drawn from different industry segments, consider NextWealth as their thinking partner and provide a very high rating in terms of customer advocacy. NextWealth's NPS score is consistently increasing and is among the highest in the industry. To learn more about NextWealth and how we could work with you, please get in touch with us. NextWealth, we enrich your data.
I think we can skip that one. So, how do I close this? So while we were doing this as part of what we are doing in NextWealth, we also wanted to see if we are only at a small drop, some 4,500 people is a very small drop in the 1.4 million jobs which are there. So we are trying to see how this can be taken to the industry itself. So as part of the NASSCOM Council, which is the organization which has the association of all IT as well as BPM companies, the vision we have drafted out is to expand the industry revenue and footprint of the BPM industry by redefining the future of work. Earlier, the openness was not there in the industry to move to small towns, but now post-COVID, suddenly they have realized that 30% of their workforce are actually working from small towns. And they realize that therefore the quality of people and the sort of work that can be done is very high. So the target that has been taken is 10% of the industry revenues should be coming from these small towns, 10% of employees, 140,000 employees to come in a distributed workforce from these locations, and to set up centers in about 100 towns across by the various organizations in the industry. So the target is 25 towns with 50,000 people being provided employment by March 2024 and 100 towns with 140,000 people in 5 years. The approach that we are talking to these organizations is, in post-COVID, people were in a work from home. Can you now move from work from home to work from hometown? So WFH to the WFHT. And we said this manufacturing industry has been doing this for ages. For the service industry, it does not happen. In the manufacturing industry, you have the main factory, and then you'll have all the subcontractors who are in and around that factory and supplying various parts, whether steering wheel or horns or whatever parts of as an example of car manufacturing. You would have the subcontractors in and around. But the subcontracting concept has not been picked up by the service industry, especially in the IT and BPM industry. So we are saying, why don't we just do what the manufacturing industry has been doing in terms of subcontracting and bring it to the service industry and see how we can change the whole way of working by subcontracting the work to the smaller towns and moving into a work from hometown model. So if you see, the NextWealth is just an example, and it actually ticks, as an example, it ticks the boxes of saying, can we provide something which is world-class quality? Can we leverage the people in the small towns? Can we provide jobs to those people and impact the local ecosystem? Can we have a model which will help every person in the chain? Can we have something which gives operational stability and operational excellence? And through this model, the large organization also don't have to invest in a capex, because if they partner with somebody there, typically when they set up a center, they'll set up a 4,000 people center, they have to invest in capex upfront. This is a completely an OPEX model. So it actually ticks the boxes on all of this. And this is what we are trying to do with the industry itself, to say how we can move to this new way of working. Because we strongly feel that the next decade is a decade of the small towns, whether it is IT, BPM or any other industry. How do we leverage the people there and move work from the cities into the small towns? So NextWealth was just an example of how this is being done in the BPM industry. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. It's time for you to ask your questions.
I'm Paul Dhanadi from IIT Madras. So I would like to ask Ms. Mythily Ramesh that you were working on AI, artificial intelligence and machine learning and NLP. Have you tied up with the IIT Madras AI for Bharat, which recently it was launched on 24th July, where for 21 languages the NLP process is going on, and Dr. Pushpak Bhattacharya, who is heading the Center of National Language Translation at IIT Bombay, he's my guru because my thesis, my research is on NLP basically, so that is the reason. Have you tied up with
No,
that?
we have not.
I think the person sitting next to you, he's all of innovation. He should help you out on that.
Okay, definitely.
Okay, because you were talking more on NLP and AI and all, and Salem. I think Tamilians are more brilliant in that, basically, that's why. I'm not supporting for that.
Because I'm a Tamilian.
I'm not supporting Tamil. In general, NLP as such, Tamilians do well, basically. Even in Dr. Pushpak Bhattacharya in IIT Bombay, he is having his own Center of Natural Language Translation at IIT Bombay, and most of his PhDs are from Tamilians, that's why.
No, sure, happy to definitely tie up with the institute, because at the end of it, the clarification I want to give is that the people in here cannot write ML algorithms, cannot write AML algorithms, but for which you need data scientists. So data scientists, I'm sure IIT, etc. will have. What we can do is to provide the data in a consumable form to them. So definitely we can partner and do this. Very happy to do that if there is an opportunity. So maybe you can introduce us.
Yeah, actually 1 minute. Okay.
Mr. Mythily, I think one of the issues IT industry, particularly the service industry, faces is the constraint from the client side. They're always used to security concerns, and that's how I think you ended up having a large, cloistered cabins for each customer and all that. How did you overcome that constraint and the mindset of the client that their data is still secure, even granting it is a BPM kind of a work? And of course, you are doing much more than the BPM work, which is what, at the first place, excited me to get you to come and talk. I mean, it is not a so-called rural BPO in that sense of the word. It is a high-end work in a rural environment kind of a thing. So that's the first question. Second, what's the constitution of this relationship? Essentially, they are distributed delivery centers. You look at them as your partners, who you are representing the delivery center vis-a-vis the client. So the client knows NextWealth, or does he know Mahindra NextWealth? So what's the kind of linkages from a legal perspective and from client relation? Third question I have, how do you go about identifying prospective partners or even prospective towns? Obviously, you started off with a survey and then invited some applicants, and then they said, we would like to start something. And that journey over the last 10 years, I presume Salem is one of your oldest and possibly the biggest. Would you have something to share as to who could be a prospective partner, which could be a prospective town? Secondly, what would be the kind of, shall we say, ideal size, either in terms of the manpower? Is it a 500 manpower center or 4,000? What would make business sense for the small town people? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I think that was 4 questions. First one was on all very relevant questions, very important questions. First one was on compliance. So compliance is very important, especially for the organizations, customers that we work with worldwide. So they insist, definitely you need to have ISO 9000, you need to have ISO 27000. Some of the processes, which is healthcare processes, require HIPAA compliance. Then the example that I gave of this identity verification, because you're looking at people's faces, you need to have PCI DSS certification, which is a very tough certification. So we have all the certifications. We also do the audits on a frequent basis to see that we are meeting those certifications. And sometimes the customers also do surprise visits to see whether we are meeting all of this. So we have a very complex checklist that we follow, and we have a Chief Risk and Compliance Officer who actually monitors and audits this on a continuous basis. So that's on the compliance part. Second part you said is the relationship. So customer knows the contract with the customer is with NextWealth. So NextWealth takes on the liabilities, all liabilities. What NextWealth does is, however, all the customer interaction, the customer communication, the governance, the transition, training our entrepreneurs on how to recruit, source, train, ramp up, deliver on metrics, how to manage risk and compliance there, how to manage the quality, how to bring in transformation. All of that we have to train the entrepreneur because there's, we are not taking from some other organization. So when they come in, they already know. You have to train them from the grassroots. So that actually took the first 3 years when we started, a lot of time went in that to train the people to understand that this is what you need to do on the ground. So entrepreneurs are typically, may not be 100% strong in operations, maybe 60% there, but we train them and bring them up to the level. Legally, we have the option of taking a 26% stake with any of those centers. They carry our brand name, but so far we have not exercised that. How do we choose the location itself, and how do we choose the entrepreneur? It's a very difficult one to do. First of all, from a location perspective, we have very clear criteria. So we say, is there enough power? We look at the power situation. Is there connectivity from 2 or 3 service providers? Is the entrepreneur emotionally connected with the place? Apart from that, what is the cost of living there? Are there enough skills available in that location? For example, in the Malasamudram location, between Malasamudram, Tiruchenkood, Erode, Salem, Dharmapuri, all those locations, we have more than 10,000 people who can come and work here. So we look at the skills and talent availability in that location. And overall cost of living. So all of that we have a detailed criteria for location. For the entrepreneur, it's very important we follow all statutory laws. So we evaluate the entrepreneur from that aspect, that have they understood all the statutory laws? Are they financially independent? Because they are going to set up the center and run it. So are they financially independent? Do they understand all of these processes? And of course, the emotional connect. So those are all the things that we look for in an entrepreneur as well as the location. Third question I missed. What would be a size of the center? Yes. So typically the centers we'll choose the locations such that the center can be minimum 500 and can grow to 2,000 or even 2,500, but not more than that. So our center in Malasamudram is about 2,100 now. Other locations are about 500 on an average. Chittoor center is 800. So ideally, the number should be between at least 1,000. So that's what we look for.
Any proposed locations identified at now where you think it might to have on one side or identified properly?
So we had quite a few entrepreneurs from Tamil Nadu and other locations as well, and we have a database of that. For example, somebody from Theni wanted to set up in Theni, somebody from Tindigal, somebody from Tiruvannamalai, then some, of course, in Karnataka also a lot of centers. So we have those entrepreneurs ready to go. Our challenge is not the entrepreneurs. Our challenge is customer acquisition. Because for them to believe, yes, this work can be done from small towns with this level, because when you go and actually meet the people, their communication is not great because they are very diffident about talking and very conservative background. I've actually, initial stages, I went and visited some of their houses. They all stay in one room, one hall, one kitchen and one bedroom, small houses. And during COVID time, they managed to work in those houses, especially for women it was difficult because you had to take care of household chores as well as do this work. But they managed to do it with that level of quality. So when you actually go and interact with them, you feel, and I'm honestly, if I'd been in Wipro and I'd interviewed any of them, I wouldn't have selected. But here I realized that it is content is more important than style. So, and that actually has been proven by the fact the sort of work that they do and the commitment that they have is very high.
Online.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. And actually happy to set up even in Trichy and Madurai, if there are centers, I mean, entrepreneurs that we can identify
You have a question?
there.
One last question, madam. We got a couple of online questions.
What a fascinating model. I wanted to ask you, firstly, how did you acquire your first customer? And how do you market yourself? Because it's quite tough to get that kind of trust from customers, especially for this kind of high-level work in, I'd say, an unusual place. So how would you market yourself? How do you do that right now? Thanks.
Thank you. First customer was on the, was actually Yahoo. Yahoo was the first customer. And we said, when we have talked about this model, they were very interested. And they said, can we try this with just 10 people? And with 10 people, we were actually able to deliver. And this was not very simple work, nor was it very complex. So it was sort of in between. They were very surprised by the fact that these people were able to do that work. And the second customer was, the organization called Tutor Vista, which existed at that time. And this was tutoring to students in the US for higher grade math, 10th, 11th, 12th math. So they had teachers all around the, independent teachers working from home, but they wanted a center where they can have teachers who could train these students and teach them math. And that's how we started. And we said that, we had about 150 people at one point of time tutoring students in the US. And they did an outstanding job. And some of the students would actually pick the tutors on an ongoing basis. And marketing actually I have Sanjay here, who's the sales and marketing head. So I'm going to ask Sanjay to answer that. The second part of the question was, how do you go about marketing yourself?
Mike.
I think, Yeah. So I think a part of how we kind of approach this is to first tell the story. I think, and what we've realized is that people are really interested in these feel-good stories. This is a amazing, story that you are doing these kind of high-end projects out of very small towns. And so the first thing is to kind of talk about it. That itself is very interesting for the customers. Second is the very fact that we are able to, initially, whatever reluctance that the customers have is kind of taken care of when we tell them that our NPS score is above 70. And it's been above 70 for last several years. So it is consistent out there. And then also when we tell them about the tools and platforms and other things that technology pieces that we have created in-house that allow us to deliver these kind of projects consistently, that kind of takes care of all these issues. And also it kind of tells them that, wow, we want to be part of this story in some sense, because, everybody, they can get the project done by several companies. But the unique thing about NextWealth story is that every time you do business with us, every time you do a project with us, you know that you are impacting the ecosystem, you are impacting some family positively. So I think all all this combines to build a very powerful brand and a powerful story. Our main challenge is that how many people can we tell the story to? And we are just hoping that through all of you guys, the word will spread.
Yeah, done the marketing very well.
The other aspect is now S of ESG has become a boardroom subject. ESG has become a boardroom subject. And the S part is very important. So this ticks the box on the S part. So suddenly we are finding a lot of organizations internationally, 50% of our business is from US and 50% from India. So many of them are asking, for my team which is there in Salem, what is the social impact of what you have done? Can you give it to us? And we would like to present it to the board. So that's also making a big difference.
Great, man. We got over 650 viewers watching this program online. We got a couple of questions. I'll just pick up two questions. One is, they said, from the presentation we understand the Tier 2, Tier series become very attractive. not only because of facilities, because of people available, and people are happy there. Have you found anything, just from Mr. Raghuram, many people from your company in Bangalore or other place, reverse migration happened, they want to leave the city and go to the rural thing, it's happened?
Yeah, I know, definitely. So, earlier it was not the case because people would want to come back to the city because the glamour of the city and all is there. But now we are finding people who would like to, they are originally, let's say, from Vellore or Chittoor, and they want to go back to their towns. Many of them are actually wanting to go back and work there in their hometowns. But it's difficult to find them. But quite a few, the trend is on the increasing side, definitely.
The work from home also contributed quite a bit.
Work from home has also contributed to that.
Yeah. Thanks. One last question, again from Mr. Francis. The capital investment, because you are encouraging a lot of entrepreneurs and they have to invest capital initially. How much you support them in terms of capital investment, and what is the safety net you provide them in case something goes wrong? So this will encourage large number of entrepreneurs who are sitting on the wall to really take a decision on coming on board.
So we actually initially, as I said, we had about 150 entrepreneurs who wrote in. We ran a workshop for about 60 of those entrepreneurs who came from all over the country. What we realized is that they all have this energy, passion to do something, to start in their own locations, but they need to understand operations, one. They need to understand the financial aspect of the whole thing, two, because they need to understand what is the capex involved, what is the opex involved, what will be the cash flow that is going to be there, and how do they manage all of this when there is a customer who is there. So we ran that workshop and trained them on all of this, to how to do the operations, how to do the financial, how to manage their financials on an ongoing basis. And then whenever, and while we say entrepreneurs, they are actually not entrepreneurs like, an arm's length basis. They are like part of our family. And it's like NextWealth's own delivery center. And therefore we pick and choose the entrepreneurs carefully because they are part of our own. And we never say NextWealth employees, we always say NextWealth family, right? So they are part of our family, and that's why the relationship is very, very built on strong trust and basis of trust and a long-term relationship. Of course, they will have issues in terms of cash flow or financial issues, in which case NextWealth helps them out.
Thank you, madam, for such a very enlightening speech. And I'm sure all of you really took notes of many things that she spoke about. Small thoughts, but big impact is what we can say. Look at the first thought. They looked at customer satisfaction. Whether you do Six Sigma or TKM or whatever you do, customer satisfaction is the key. And to achieve customer satisfaction, to put it in digital score and say, this is our score with respect to customer satisfaction, whether it is an NPS score or it is a score within where you rate every employee within the organization. It's all been above 99 and 99.5. And taking this across to the world and telling them that you're impacting somebody in a small town. Now, first thing is, look at the entrepreneur. She's looked at the demand supply. Demand is on one side, supply is from another town. So she took the opportunity from that, worked on it, looked at why not locate a business there, look at what else could be done in the town, AI, all that could be done, not just data operation, but many things that we couldn't have believed could happen in small town. Like she rightly pointed out, a simple thing is a Chinese photograph. Why a Chinese photograph? Even a Chinese two men sitting in front of us, we are not able to identify. So Chinese photograph is much more. Doing it with accuracy and doing it with passion, doing it with impact, all these are tremendous things, and I'm sure NextWealth will grow leaps and bounds in the years to come. All the very best, and thank you very much, madam.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure talking to you all, and hope that whatever I spoke about today would influence you or some of people you know to move to small towns, and whatever little bit that can be done to impact lives and livelihood would be objective achieved for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Shivakumar. Thank you, Mythily. I think a big round of applause for bringing new concept, making it successful. one role model, having served in the corporate for more than 2 decades, and taking up entrepreneurship is quite a challenge, and done it very well. And thank you so much for coming and addressing the members. I request Shriya to join us on stage, present a memento on behalf of all of us. Shivakumar, Raja, you can also join us. Raja is our committee member.